This is Musically Meditative Podcast with Joe Riley and Sret Dog here.
Are we episode 8?
Yeah, we are episode 8. We are episode 8. But what I'm getting at is I have actually been getting some feedback from this, from what I've been doing so far. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but we haven't really put it out there at all, really. I mean, it's on your website, but I've been getting feedback, and there's been a lot of talk of your top 10. What's your top 10? What's your top 10 in 2017? Like, like this and that. And that's cool. Like, I'm into that, but I have to be realistic about it. 2017 isn't over, you know, so we still have 30 days.
Yeah.
So I can get into that next year. Like, I've done this myself throughout the years, and you told me before, like, your brother's done it too, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I'll wait until the next, you know, after
I think he
January.
does it the way that you do it. I think he like puts it out like January or February after the year passed. Because the last 2 episodes you talked about, I'm sorry, I can't think of which DJ. I think one was Thundercat or whatever. But one of them where you said you consider his album a 2017 album technically, but it came out like tail end of December.
Oh, that was J. Cole.
J. Cole.
Yeah.
So you mentioned him. So it's one of those things. Like, it was a good album that came out end of the year.
Right. But that's
and it's not on anybody's top 10 2016 list because
it's a shitty time to drop an album. It's a shitty time to drop an album. But getting into that, like, talk about your top 10, and you could put it in a box and wrap it up, and you could say, this is my top 10 hardcore albums. This is my top 10 hip hop, my top 10 country, blah, blah, blah. But what I wanted to do tonight was talk about not my top 10 of 2016, but my top 3. And when it comes to music and what I'm into, just in life in general, is about being honest, you know, and how maybe this particular movie might change your life, you know, this particular song may change your life, whatever it is, you know, like whatever you're into. And these 3 albums I'm going to talk about are from the past. It's not too long ago, right? 2016 is okay to talk about. But they are something that really, really moved me. And fuck the top 10 shit. Like, top 3. Let me hear your top 3 and how they moved you. And I'm going to try to... Well, actually, I'm going to transition into these 3 albums and how they made a difference in my life.
I've told you before, one of the things that I like about when you break down an album is the fact that you're almost not concerned. Like, you come in here usually you throw away 1 or 2 albums or songs that you actually want to talk about because you go into a little more depth and you talk about like the full album, why you liked it. You can talk in depth. You actually want to hit 1 album or 1 song and break it down and say why you liked it. Not, oh, I got to knock out all 10 of these, so maybe each one is only going to get 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 seconds or 10 seconds. You go into in depth and you describe why you like it. That way it's got a little more context. It's got a little more juice.
I'll tell you this much. I spent a lot of time listening to these 3 albums in 2016, more than I had conversations with human beings. So anyone that's listening to this, you know I'm an honest person and I'm not going to steer you the wrong way. So this is coming from the heart. And these albums are deep to me too, but I might not be here tomorrow. So this might be the last thing I ever had to say. So remember that when you hear me talking about music, this is what I'm into. There's no bullshit.
Right.
Okay? There's no... I'm not looking for likes on fucking Facebook. I'm not looking for views on Instagram. If you know me and you like me, I just want people to know this is from the heart. Like, this isn't any bullshit. And I'll be honest, like, these 3 albums that I'm going to talk about in 2016 have a very hipstery fucking vibe to them. You know? And I mean, I could put on my thick glasses right now because I don't have my contacts because they just burnt out, you know? Like, I got to get some new ones, but you know, there is a hipstery vibe, and I'm in touch with my inner hipster. The first band I want to talk about, I sent you a text earlier today, like, what are you going to talk about? What'd you think about Death Grip's Bottomless Pit?
Okay.
What do you think about Death Grips? And now you've
introduced me to the whole like the multiple genres of what I would say like metal. How would you say that? So there's like grindcore, there's all the different, what's at the top before it starts breaking up in all the branches? What's at the very top, the most general? Like when you say country, there's like bluegrass, there's the other shit branches.
I love that you asked me to put Death Grips in a box.
Yes.
I can't.
I have a point. So listening to your show and sitting here with you while we do the show together, while you do talk about the bands that you want to talk about and albums and all that stuff, I didn't know there were so many subcategories, subgenres within heavy metal. Even one night when we had Vinyl Night a couple weeks ago, we had Wallace come in here, who has a local band, and he comes in and he brought a bunch of albums, and I was like, with my virgin ears, some of them sound exactly the same, but you guys are breaking down bass lines, bass solos, drumming stuff. You can identify multiple drummers, offbeat stuff, just all the little nuances within all these bands, which blew my mind. So anyways, I listened to it today.
You listened to Death Grips.
I pressed play. I started listening.
The first
I was
song?
stuck in traffic.
Okay.
I'm not sure what this first song is, but
I keep giving bad people good ideas.
yes, because I loved the intro with the little kid or whoever that was saying that, right?
Right.
And I was like, man, this is clever. Can I be this clever? Can I ever? I always think that I'm clever, but then frequently I find out I'm not, and other people are much more clever than I am.
This has nothing to do about being clever, but I will say this about Death Grips. If you really want to get to a loved one or a coworker you really despise, or maybe a loved one you really despise, you leave a Post-it note of a Death Grips album title or a song. I keep giving back people good ideas. It will fuck with them mentally for a while. So that's one thing to take away from this entire recording. If you really want to mess with someone mentally, you leave Death Grips song titles on Post-it notes.
I'm sitting at the beginning of my commute, ton of traffic, whatever, and I start listening. And I'm like a minute into the song, right? There's all kinds of shit going on. And then the singer starts singing. I don't know at what point he starts singing and they start doing their thing. And I was like, what the fuck is this? It was like I was listening to three different things at the same time. I didn't turn it off. Normally I would turn it off.
That's good.
Because I liked it. Like I didn't like it. I just was like, what the fuck is this? And so I immediately because I was listening on YouTube, so I immediately went to no offense, but another album review guy, the album review guy on YouTube.
Who?
The guy, the hardest working
Needle Drop. Anthony Fantano. I love Anthony Fantano.
So I listened to him and I was like, I need a little context, just a little bit. It's not necessary. I like doing fresh.
Grips.
He loves them.
Yeah.
And he was saying it and he was like, oh, he's describing exactly what I feel right now. So let me get back to it. So I didn't listen to his full review because I just wanted to get like a real quick idea. So I kept listening. And I need to listen to it more. I need to listen to all of their stuff.
Well, that first song, I keep giving bad people good ideas, is a really, really hard pill to swallow. I mean, even for myself, and I've been listening to experimental, just crazy noise and shit for years. That's not a really good way to start off an album, in my opinion. But goddamn, that shows you the attitude of that band. And going into what I like and what was important to me last year musically, that's what I love about Death Grips. And I love the fact that you bring that up. Like, it's not an easy pill to swallow. And I'm not going to go through each track. I'm going to talk about this album as an album, like a good book that you've read, that Bottomless Pit almost starts off like the ending part of a novel when the plane is nosediving. So they're just letting you know right off the bat that this shit is not going to be you're not going to be comforted.
Right.
So if you are the type of person that likes just to be cuddled and snuggled, like, this isn't the shit for you. Never. And that's what I like about it. I feel that Death Grips, I'm not going to go just so much on this album, but these guys as a trio, which they are, you have MC Ride, you have the keyboardist, and he's the sample dude that makes the beats and the noises that you're hearing. I don't remember his name right now. And you have the drummer. You got this trio, and I think it may have been like somewhat of a joke. Like, they had these ideas, and they came out with their first album, which was Ex-Military.
But how long ago was that?
2011, 2012.
Okay.
But what I'm getting at is these three dudes are like a three-piece of modern music. And when I say that, like, they're the best group of guys that are able to take their music from what you're hearing and then package it into a video, like from the 90s, and then an actual album, like what you're looking at. So it's something you could touch, see, grab, and hear. No one has been able to do that in a long time, maybe ever, like as far as the digital age goes. And they're like that punch in the face. Like what you and I hate about social media is exactly what Death Grips is throwing in your fucking face. If you're into them in a nerdy way like I am and some others are, like, you don't flirt with the idea of breaking up as a band like every 3 fucking months. You don't flirt with the idea, or actually you don't go out of your way to ruin record label contracts like they have. Like, who in their right mind has a contract to do live shows with Soundgarden and Nine Inch Nails and not show up? Death Grips does. Death Grips is the embodiment. Like, they are Prodigy on crack mixed with the emotion and aggression of Black Flag and the I don't give a fuck attitude of the Sex Pistols all at once. And then they model it into this internet explosion. No one else has done that, and they're way ahead of their time. Now, there's nothing harmonic about this at all. Like, they're the first band. Like, if you've ever, like, recorded any kind of music and you drag out the wavelengths, you know, like, okay, so if you're on SoundCloud and you drag it out, all of their shit is to the top. You know, like, they are the most plummeting force of music right now. Like, and it's not, like I said, this isn't shit you're listening to before you go to church on Sunday. This is the shit I was listening to in 2016 before I went to the gym or when I was at the gym. Best way to describe it. Now, if you want to get into it with what MC Wright is saying, the lyricist, then go for it. But it, you know, it's dark. So let me get back into these guys. They're an experimental hip hop group, is the best way I could describe it. The only way it's hip hop is because MC Wright has rhymes. Now he's shouting them, you know, like at his own level and whatever the hell he wants to do, but it's so organic. It's so original. I just love it. It moves me, you know. So it might take a while. This isn't a pill you can just take and, you know what I mean, digest it overnight. Like, they're a crazy group, but this album, Bottomless Pit, is the best way to try to digest Death Grips, because when you go through it, they have some basic beats and they have some really good bangers. And if you can't get into this, then you're probably not going to get into the rest. Now, like I said, like, the first song isn't the best introduction, but I love Death Grips. Now, I saw them one time live. Like, that was it. Yeah. Just once. The other time I went there, they had a suicide letter up.
Oh, you told me about that.
Yeah, I've mentioned this in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me backtrack a little bit about Death Grips. I was pissed off at them for years. Like, when I saw them live, when I went to go see them live, they didn't show up. They posted an email. It was a suicide note from a fan, and they put a child's drum kit up, like a you know, just a little drum kit. They didn't show up, and they told the owner to just keep playing their songs on fucking shuffle on iPod. These are the iPod days. And they did, and everybody freaked out, and it was a riot. So I was pissed off at them for a couple years. I really was. So they came out. It's funny, I remember this, Death California and Jenny Death, and they're both decent albums, especially Jenny Death, because it's a double disc. And this is what I'm getting into in 2016. Like, they put out a couple subpar albums, then they put out an instrumental too. But with Bottomless Pit, this is them at their best commercial or most palatable sound. Like, the album I'm thinking about before that really sounds like this, that's easy to digest, is the Get Money album. I believe that's what it's called. With Bottomless Pit, I was able to, this is what I wanted. It's like when you really, really like Michael Jordan and he sucks for a couple years, but he comes out and he fucking scores 45 on the Knicks and wins the championship. Good explanation. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, really, like that's what they did, because I'm a fanboy of Death Grips. I love everything that they represent. I like that they're so nihilistic. It's disgusting. Like, there's nothing about this that is
to the
positive.
point where you were mad for 2 years.
Yeah, like they did that on fucking purpose. I took it personal. Who the fuck puts a suicide letter up, an email that they received and they don't show up? Death Grips does. And the following, because I was like, because they had a reputation of this. All right, like MF Doom, like John has talked about, not showing up. So I knew this going into it. So my friend and I, this was probably in 2013 or 2014, we went to the show where it was at in Chicago. I don't remember. All right. But it was the show before the one I was talking about, them opening for Soundgarden and fucking
9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails. So I was like, they got to show up. Not only did they not show up for that show, they didn't show up for Soundgarden and 9 Inch Nails, like these motherfuckers. So I was butthurt. I was, man. I was upset at these dudes. I was for a while. And then they came out with Bottomless Pit, and I was like, all right, I love you again. I love you again. It's like one of those altercations you get, in, you know, like with a loved one. Or
it's funny when I was saying I was listening to that quick needle drop, like 2 or 3 minutes of it, and he said the same thing. He was like, and they went this year. They dropped this album. They went on a tour, and surprisingly, they showed up to most of the shows.
Yeah. See, no. Here's where I'm going to be a little bit. No, here's where I'm going to be very opinionated about Death Grips and why I think they did that, regardless of the fact of being punk rock and I don't give a fuck and not showing up. I don't think they could really, at the time, pull off what they've pulled off on a record, because Zach Hill. I'll go back to the drummer, Zach Hill. Okay. This is how I heard about Death Grips. I'm going to just backtrack a touch. He was the drummer for Team Sleep. Team Sleep was Chino Marino's side project from the Deftones. Death Grips is from Sacramento. So that's how I heard about Death Grips. Then they had this really cool, like, rolling down the hill, picking up fucking moss traction. Like, who are these dudes? But if it wasn't for Zach Hill or like Chino from the Deftones, maybe no one would have heard of them. What I'm getting at is this is the best way to push your music on social media.
Oh.
Ever. But
being dicks.
But by being dicks, but using that old punk rock attitude, like, I don't care, but you know they care. Everybody cares. I care what your opinion is on how I'm talking on this podcast, and so do you. I mean, we could lie about it, but let's not lie.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
You know? Yeah, me either.
Yeah,
see, exactly, but that's what they embody, and that's what they present. But what I was getting at, they couldn't pull it off. They couldn't pull it off live. And that's why they were canceling shows. Because here's the thing with Zach Hill.
I think you did mention that before.
Zach Hill is the brainchild behind this, and he is the drummer, and he is percussion. Percussion is everything. The dumb is intrigued by the drum. So says Master Killa from Wu-Tang. Shout out to Wu-Tang. It's Wednesday. They got a new album out. It's all right. I kind of wanted to review it tonight, but it didn't happen. Whatever. But he is the percussionist. He does do a lot of production. Whatever he was doing with the first couple albums, I don't think he could really pull it off live on a regular basis. Like old school live, let's go do 30 shows in the Midwest. Okay? So it's one of those, like, you're getting called out by Soundgarden and 9 Inch Nails because you have this really cool organic following online. That's a lot of pressure for 3 guys, meaning the drummer, Zach Hill, is like the main, you know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't have a guitarist or a bass player to pull him through. His name's Andy, the guy that does the keyboards and the samples. He has him, and then he has MC Ride, which who you know or what you've listened to today or anyone has ever listened to, what does he do? He shouts. He fucking shouts. He doesn't care. But if you really read into his lyrics, like, the dude is in some dark places. But with this album, this is the best place to start. Like, with Death Grips. If you can't get into this, which it might be a hard pill to swallow, and I don't care, but this is where you start. You know, this or the, you know what, it's called Money Store, not Get Money. It's called the Money Store album. Like I love Death Grips as artists. I love everything that they're doing for music, and I like how they're pushing all that internet shit in your face that you don't like, but you have to accept it. You know, like it's they're the best thing to happen to independent music before it went pop since Nirvana, in my opinion. And that's a bold statement.
It's very bold.
And I stand by that. Like they're a great.
But is it though? People are always looking for that. And maybe Nirvana is not a good one to. I think it is good to compare it to Nirvana, but people always want to compare some shit and say that's that thing we said when we first started about. There's people out there that say, there's never been like ever since 1968 there hasn't been any good music, or ever since the 90s and grunge there hasn't been any good music. Somebody's always spouting some bullshit about.
This is the thing with Death Grips, and I'm sorry to cut you off. If you're into the honesty and aggression and anger and noise of Black Flag, combined with Chicago Ministry, remember the Ministry, the band, with that like heavy metal techno approach, but then the honesty and the darkness of Mayhem. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mayhem,
no, but
they're the first black metal band to ever come out, and they burnt down churches and Dead. You know, he blew his head off, and the fucking next album cover was him with his head blown off. Like, they're the first. Here's the thing with the hip hop vibe with him. This is why I really like them, because they're putting all this into one. They're the first hip hop act that has made me feel uncomfortable since I was a little kid looking at an NWA album. Okay? Like, where do you get, you know, it's like when you're a little kid and you're watching a certain movie that really freaks you out. I don't know if it's Halloween or if it's Freddy fucking Krueger, whatever you're into, but where do you get that authentic, I'm fucking scared?
Yeah.
This is not...
That's a really good way to put it.
This is not, like I said, you're not listening to this before you're going to confession. All right? This is the shit, like, you know, like...
Hey, you don't right before bed, warm up a glass of milk, sit on your favorite recliner. You don't put this on.
If you're into, like I said, this is all, this little recording is about being honest. And I don't love, I love basically every track on this, but it's a hard pill to swallow. But this is these three dudes are making a really cool piece of art, and everyone should take notice, even if it offends you. Whatever. Like, they have things on YouTube where people are playing Guillotine, which is their first single, which is probably the coolest fucking video, like music video, that has made an impression on me since Smells Like Teen Spirit. I don't want to put these guys on the same pedestal as Kurt Cobain, but even though I am, but you know what I'm saying? Like, this is authentic. This is original. But they have videos on YouTube where people are showing their 5-year-old daughter this video and this sound and getting their opinion. And they like it. Mm-hmm. Because Guillotine is like, see, Death Grips, what they embodied in the very beginning was a very primal thing, like drums, shouting. Like, there's something about Death Grips that just, for me personally, like, it makes my skin crawl. Like, Bottomless Pit, there's a song called 80808, and whenever I go to the bar and it's kind of a dead night and I'm with a couple friends, I'll pick that song just to see everybody's reaction. Like, just walk up there casually and slow, like, hey, what's up? And then just sit down and see what happens. So, like I said, I love Death Grips. I saw them last year at Riot Fest. It was really cool. We didn't know if they were going to show. They came out and they played Guillotine for like 3 seconds. I was with my cousin Ian. Shout out to my cousin Ian Riley. And they left. He's like, dude, they're not going to fucking come back out. But they came back out and they like put out all the fog that you could imagine, and then just deep blue and purple lights. And I felt like the colors for them in the setting was like perfect. And it was loud as fuck. Like, when people are like, oh, there's no good music out anymore. Bullshit. You want to hear, like I said, the loudest fucking thing ever? like, it's not Boys to Men here. Like I said, it's Black Flag, Prodigy, and Mayhem.
I think it's super interesting that you talked about the feel when you listen. That feel, it's a similar feeling to when Nirvana was out, and you're like, what are these dudes? This is different. And you talked about how it gave you the same feeling as like when you first heard about NWA.
Right. I was scared. That's
something. Just listen.
They scare me.
Hey, audience, just listen to it.
Look at Ex-Military. It was actually a mixtape. Okay, and I've talked about that before. We'll just call it their first album. You look at that album cover, and it's like an Aborigine facial, or a tribal African soldier, but fucking really close. And then it's tight packaged and like it looked like a rope, and like like an album cover, like you're looking through shit, like that's gonna make an impression. And that's what's really awesome about these guys, from the album cover to what they have to say artistically by their music, and then the video aspect of it too. It's amazing. I feel, being a 90s kid and a 90s dude, like loving heavy metal and everything I've talked about, like they're the best package for that, But this shit is not.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. But I think that's okay.
That's okay.
There's a lot of light and there's a lot of dark, and that's what I'll go into the next album that really moved me in 2016. But Death Grips is a thing that you should really check out. I mean, at least spending a half hour.
Start with Bottomless Pit.
Yeah, start with Bottomless Pit because
go from there.
Yeah, go from there. Go from there. I mean, I could backtrack, but the best way to check them out is Guillotine Video on YouTube. We'll put that up, but I could go on forever about Death Grips.
What's the second album?
I love Money Store, and I don't know, Bottomless Pit got me back into the fanboyism, like they pissed me off with their last couple, like I said. Jenny Death is good. It's just, but they just kept doing all this fuckery, like we're a band, we're not a band. We're going to come out with an album, we're not going to come out with an album. Like, I don't know. No Love, Deep Web. Like, just listen to that title. That's what they are. They're the deep web of music. If you're gonna, if you're into, what is it, BDSM, this is your soundtrack to that shit. Seriously, like that's what this shit is. Fucking dirty. Like, it's nasty. It's not, You
might feel weird after.
Yeah, but that's okay,
that's
man.
Okay.
You got to embrace all that weirdness, like whatever you're into, man. I love Death Grips, and they're a really good thing for music, and they're a huge middle finger to the Taylor Swifts. When you start your first track ever as an artist with Charles Manson talking, you know what I'm saying? And fuck Charles Manson. Mm-hmm. All right. I don't condone and think he's cool at all. I don't give a fuck that he just died.
Yeah.
But when you do that as an artist, or you paint a picture of him, or you put him in your first track, which is on Ex-Military, that's setting a vibe. You know what I mean? Like, that's setting two middle fingers up. So
you're listening. You're like, here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
We're in it. You're in it.
Yeah, I am the beast I worship. That's all he keeps saying over and over. Like, this shit is like a weird satanic seance. Like, it's dark, man. So if you're into something dark, we all go through our dark times. This is a good band to check out. And Bottomless Pit is a good album, like I said, like to work out to. Or if you missed your shot of espresso in the morning, check it out. Check it out. But now here we go. From the dark all the way into something calming and peaceful. The light at the end of the tunnel, and they don't really need any introduction, I don't think, but it's Radiohead, Moon-Shaped Pool. Here's another thing, like, same with Death Grips and Bottomless Pit. Radiohead, I've been tapping into Radiohead since 1997. So that's 20 years. I'm 34 years old. Like, I had the Around the Fur special about Deftones. Like, this is a band that is a part of me. Like they are a part of me. Like, play this shit at my funeral. Like, play them. This is personal. Like, they're in my playlist at my funeral. I really, really love Radiohead. I love everything that they do. But, you know, there were a couple albums that kind of threw me off. And Phantom Limb was garbage, and that came out, you know, I'll say 2010, 2011, and it was a cool artistic approach. What they were doing was cutting up noodles and doodles of sounds of, you know, the dude on bass or guitar or drum, and then Tom York, the singer, was putting it together to create a song. Really cool. Like I said, all of these albums have this hipstery vibe, but whatever. And that was a cool idea. There's a couple cool tracks, but there were maybe 5 to 6 tracks on Phantom Limb. So when they came out with Moon Shaped Pool last year, like everything about it just made sense to me. And it has this feeling of, you know, the end of winter and the beginning of spring. Sounds cliche as fuck, but, you know, the flower, man, it's just, it's cold out, but
hopeful.
It's hopeful. It's blossoming. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And you can't mess with this album. It's like Radiohead at their best. Like, I love Radiohead. I'm a total fanboy. My favorite album by them is OK Computer. Number 2 is In Rainbows, and this is number 3. And that's a really cool thing to say as a fan, you know? Like, I love the Deftones. Gore came out in 2016. I listened to it just as much as this, but I'm not putting it at number 3. You know, no way. So kudos to Radiohead, you know, for putting out such a really just subtling album, man. Like you know, Death Grips is just on the whole other spectrum, but this is just so calming and like just chill, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the setting of your bookstore right now, like some, you know, some wine, a candle, your girlfriend, like you're chilling. You know, there's a couple elevated moments of this, but I love this album. I just, it was my favorite album of 2016, and I can't really describe it or express it anymore. I think what they did as a group here is they blended their electronic, Tom York's electronic influences with indie rock, but at their best. Like, there's a lot of new bands coming out, in my opinion, that are trying to be like this, but it'll never happen. Like, they're very original, you know, just as Death Grips. But I mean, they've been doing it for a long time, and they're the type of band too. Like, their first album, Pablo Honey's their worst. And that's a hard thing to say about a band. Like, usually, like, you'll talk to someone like, oh, their first 2 are great. Like, it was Pablo Honey and then the Bends, and I love the Bends. But, man, they just keep getting better, you know? They do. They took a little backtrack, like I said, with a couple albums. But with Moon Shaped Pool, like, the packaging, almost same thing as Death Grips. Like, I'll put it this way. Out of the 3 albums I'm talking about right now, I own this, like, on record, vinyl. Like, when I saw it, like when it was out, I bought it. Like, I love this album. I have no other way to describe it, but Tom York's voice is very soothing to me. Like I said, it has like that spring renewal vibe, and it has that exhale vibe of like meditation.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that very
That's a really good way to put it.
A very, just a calm, soothing, like, you know, like,
a lot of their beats they're calming, they're soothing.
Yeah.
They even have some, like, I've listened to Radiohead where I usually listen in my car for whatever reason. I'll listen to them in my car. And I have a couple of their songs. I can't name them because you're the music guy. And I think I've had a head injury or something. I can't remember anything.
Is that your problem?
Maybe. But there's a couple songs where, you know, they scream, it gets intense, but you know, you can get into it, but it is very calming. Some of the stuff is like repetitive. It's got good beats, fast drums, all that stuff. But nothing is jarring usually. Nothing is like
cringeworthy.
Cringeworthy.
Death Grips is consistently cringeworthy. Ooh. This is not.
No.
Like, I couldn't play Death Grips for my grandma, but I could play this album.
How does it lyrically compare? Have you broken down the lyrics?
You know,
I shouldn't say compare. How's the lyrical? How are the lyrics on the Radiohead album?
You know, with Tom York, where he paints a good picture of interpret it the way you want to. With MC Ride, it's dark. There's, I mean, you know, with the vocabulary, and I feel like a good songwriter lyrically and by his vocabulary, like a good poet, like a Morrissey or something. That's Tom York. So you could take it for however you want to interpret it. Like, even back to the Around the Fur talk, like that's what really got me into getting the CD or the, you know what I'm saying, the package, and like reading the lyrics to rock and roll. Not so much hip hop, but rock and roll, and you can interpret it anyway. This album just seems like kind of lyrically, like letting go of the past and moving on. You know, like I said, like that whole exhale of like a meditation thing or a yoga deal. Like this is some shit that you're listening to doing Pilates or doing yoga, you know, like it's chill. Or, you know, like I said, Death Grips, working out, kind of angry. This is when I'm chilling out, reflecting, and going to bed.
Reflecting's a good word.
Reflecting.
It's good reflecting music.
It's reflection.
That's a perfect word.
Yeah, and you can't fuck with Radiohead with reflection. Like that's, I don't know if they intentionally tried to do that with this. Anytime I put Radiohead Moonshaped Pool on, you know, the turntable, like it was good, man. Like everything about this is positive. It's just a good flow. It is, man. Yeah. Like nothing this year has touched this. Like Moonshaped Pool is my album of the year in 2016. Like you can't mess with it. And they stay in their lane as a group, but you just can't. You can't fuck with Radiohead, man.
Before I ask you about the third album you wanted to talk about, what do you think about the music that's come out in 2017? I know that there's a lot of good music that did come out, but how is it feeling as a whole?
I wish that I had this platform, and I thank you for it, like I mentioned earlier. I wish I had this platform to talk about the albums that I liked in 2016 on a weekly basis. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And in 2016, too, like I had maybe a little bit more free time. I went through a surgery or whatever, and I went to quite a few live shows and just really embodied a lot of music. And I did that this past 6 weeks because I unfortunately went through another injury. So it's kind of hard. It's black and white. Like, how do you feel on Monday compared to Friday? But 2016 just had a lot more. I don't know. Maybe I was somewhere different than mentally and emotionally.
No, it's just a question.
It's a good question, but I'm getting deep with this. Yeah. But I feel like there was a lot more music in 2016 that reached out to me personally. You know,
that's a good way to put it. That's what I was going to say too.
Okay.
Maybe the difference is that there's an album or a song or a group or something that just latched onto your brain, latched onto your soul.
Right.
Just something that I know. I'm a big movie guy and a music guy, but I like movie scores. I'm weird. I like the instrumentals and stuff. But there's certain times where I'll hear something and it might be a shitty movie or for whatever reason I'll enjoy something because it just latches itself. This is my example. 1996, 7 or 8, don't know what year. The movie came out called Six String Samurai. Crazy low budget, stupid story.
That's some old kung fu shit. Ain't it?
Yeah, but it's an No, it was produced in America. Soundtrack was done by the Red Elvises, which is a Russian immigrant rockabilly band that I fucking love. I still try to see them when they come out here. I think they live in Santa Barbara, and the band members keep changing. Anyways, it's got kung fu. It's post-apocalyptic. The cinematography, everything. It's a crazy low budget movie. Something about that movie latched itself onto me, and I couldn't justify recommending it to anybody around me. But for me, that fucking movie was great. That soundtrack was great. Certain scenes were awesome to me. Spin kicks, because it was a kung fu movie.
Yeah,
it was like a nutty movie with like a dueling guitar scene.
Right,
like with the main character and the devil that they made look like the Guns N' Roses guitarist. Slash,
yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, this movie is fucking ridiculous. I love it. And I became a fan of that band, the Red Elvises. And as a result, a couple years later,
they were in movies, weren't they? And were they in Tarantino movies or something or no?
I don't think so, but it is a similar that rockabilly style.
Okay.
But I've been to that place in who gives a shit? My brain's not working either. But I've seen them a couple times around here. And I met the band. They're all cool. I actually went to go see them for the first time in West Lafayette at Purdue with my brother. And he was like, why are we doing this shit? Like I keep talking about my brother. He's a big music guy like you.
Right.
Loves all kinds of shit. It's awesome. It's awesome. He turns me on a lot of really good music.
He's got a great taste, for sure.
And so I took him to that shit. And that's when his musical tastes were kind of like starting to bud, where he was getting an idea of what he liked. And so he latched on a handful of bands, but he still kept an open mind. And he's like, why are we like you made me almost watch that movie. We had a great time. Like we just had a great time.
That's what it's all about.
Solid,
right?
Solid rock and roll music on its basic level. I call it Barney for adults. Any one of their songs.
We gotta nerd out, you know?
Yeah. What's the reason? That's for me. You got people that love hip hop, that love fucking Taylor Swift, that love whatever.
Yeah,
that's
whatever
fine.
you
love
like.
what you love, man.
Yeah,
but love it honestly.
Right.
That's kind of the point of what you're talking about.
That's
Love
what
it
I'm
honestly.
trying to do.
Don't love it because your friend fucking loves it.
Right.
Maybe your friend turns you on to it. My friends and family turn me on to shitload of good music.
That's what I'm doing here, like weekly. Like, hey, I like this because I like it. But instead of let me go over my top 10, it's almost January 1st. No, let me talk about my favorite 3 from 2016. Let me get a little bit more intimate with this. Yeah. And we're all, you and I and everybody here at the Green Door, I think we're learning as we go. You know, like on how to be as honest as possible and to come from the heart, you know. And whatever you're into, like you said, is it movies? Is it music? Whatever it is, like just come from the heart. Don't talk shit.
Yeah.
You know, like let's be positive about this. Like there's a lot of light with the dark, from Death Grips to Radiohead. That's crazy. That's a crazy dynamic.
Yeah.
And I'm not patting myself on the shoulder, but I want to listen to some crazy shit, and then I want to listen to some shit that put me to bed and to chill and reflect. You know,
that's why I enjoy when you drop the knowledge.
Right. Thanks.
I don't want. Right. We rip on. So the other guy here at Green Door is Michael. We'll just call him Michael, and we rip on Michael all the time because who's Michael listen to?
Him and I both got the same haircut. Go ahead.
Who plays in the store constantly? What band?
He's a bookstore guy. He likes the National.
Yeah. That's his band.
That's a good bookstore band, the National, but they're good. They're good.
Yeah.
They're good. They're good. You know,
but that's what he listens to.
Right.
And this might not be fair. I think he has good taste in music.
I think he does.
But he loves the National, and he'll listen to that shit on repeat.
It's so subjective, though. Like people, here's the thing, too. Like I'm sorry I'm cutting you off, but I have gotten feedback, and we're not out there. I may have mentioned that before, but I've gotten some flack for the love of Morrissey and the Smiths.
Have you really?
Yeah.
I got the opposite.
Okay, that's good.
A friend of mine who doesn't like things. I goof on him because he won't admit that he likes shit. He was like, dude, who's Joe? I was a guy I met like at a bar fucking randomly. He's got a really awesome taste in music. He's like, dude, I'm listening to everything he recommended, but I started with, like, he got me back into Morrissey. He listened after you talked. Yeah. And then he went back and listened to other ones. He's like, he's not into the hardcore shit, but he's like, I like.
Yeah.
He was being very complimentary about your taste.
I appreciate it.
And I was like, oh shit, okay, we're on to something.
Right. But I want the constructive criticism. I don't give a shit. Like, it's so subjective. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, just
calm down.
Give me shit. I want it. Like,
yeah.
But what I'm getting at with Morrissey, like, there's a lot of haters, and regardless if you like how he sounds when he sings or what he has to say politically, I was getting a lot of shit for what Morrissey had to say politically as of late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been in the news for.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, a guy that takes a shot at Margaret Thatcher in 1986, is there anything he may or may not say that's going to really, like, surprise me? I mean, I was born in 83, and I know I'm getting off the beaten fucking path here, but, like, whatever.
We won't get into it because we've talked about it a bunch of times, but let me just tiptoe around it this way. Has he ever given an interview or a public opinion, something not having to do with his music, that didn't rub somebody the wrong way? He always says something that somebody's like, man, that dude's a dick.
That's why he's awesome. That's why I love him.
So, I don't know.
That's what I tell myself.
That's why when I see on my news feed, I'll see article. I might get into reading other things, but when I see him, and you know what level of fan I am.
Right.
I'm casual. I'm okay. I like his. I like if somebody plays it. I know. I don't care about the controversy. When I see it on the newsfeed, I don't care. I don't give a shit. He's been doing this stuff for 30 fucking years.
He's the last person, pop singer wise, that can say whatever he wants to, that the political correct police cannot assassinate. But he's the last one. That's all I have to say about it. He is never held back, and he is so ahead of his time, and he reminds me of say what you want to, whenever you want to, if you're on a certain platform. I'm not on Morrissey's fucking platform, but kudos to him. Like, he has this punk rock ethic and attitude that no one else really has. But who was talking about, flogging Margaret Thatcher and not eating meat as a dietary choice in the 80s?
Right.
He was.
Yeah.
So kudos. And he was using his platform as a pop singer to do it.
This is the last thing I'll say. You'll say your thing. We'll move on to the third album.
Right.
But I think Morrissey's a fucking asshole.
He is.
I think he's a straight up, head to toe, asshole to elbow, asshole. Like, I think he's a dick. But that's cool. Whatever. He's not... I'll listen to his music if I like his music.
Right.
I'll listen to you tell me, hey, man, the new album's good. Listen to it. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. People think Tom Cruise is crazy. I think he makes fucking great movies.
Right.
Hey, if somebody's a fucking murderer or something, yeah, I'm probably not going to watch their movie. But
shyness is
somebody
nice.
is just telling their opinion.
Shyness is nice. That's what Morrissey has to say.
Yeah.
And like, he's the most shy person in pop culture when you look at him.
That's another funny thing. Yeah.
But he has so much to say.
Yeah.
And that's why I embody him, and I'm a big fan. I don't want to talk about him, hopefully, on the next episode of Musically Meditated. I did just see him, though, live, and it was fucking awesome.
After the third album, I do want you to talk about the show, because I'm super curious. Okay. I saw your pictures on Instagram. I was fucking jealous.
You liked it, didn't you?
I was jealous, man. I wanted to be there. Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to get into this. As far as Wu-Tang and hip-hop, apparently I just can't, like, I was thinking about this earlier, like, I cannot get out of the mindset of not reviewing maybe a hip-hop album. I don't know if I have every episode. Have I?
Why do you hesitate?
I don't know. Okay, album number 3. How do you say that? Could you pronounce that for them simple folk?
Danny Brown, Atrocity Exhibition.
Now, do you know where that term comes from?
No.
All right, that's a track from a group that I really love. Deep down in my heart, deep down, Joy Division. You've heard of them, probably.
Yeah.
You've heard
Yeah.
The album it's from is called Closer, and that was Ian Curtis's last album he ever recorded before he hung himself. Buzzkill. But at any rate, I mean, that was a long time.
It's not a buzzkill.
Yeah, I know, but it's still a buzzkill.
But he named his album after that?
Danny Brown named his album after one song off of the album Closer by Joy Division.
Does he mention it at all in the album? Or
he does in interviews. And
okay.
I'll get into that.
So it's a big influence on him. Or an influence. Or just something he listened to.
These are all great questions. I feel like Danny Brown didn't really break down the musical sound of Closer by Joy Division. I think he liked the way that song title sounded.
Yeah.
But when you get into Danny Brown as an artist, it has a lot of
parallels
for sure. But Ian Curtis' cry for help of Closer and then hanging himself, like, this is some really like black and white shit here with this album. And using it on a hip hop platform is really, really cool, because hip hop for me was always, or it is, about storytelling. And Danny Brown as an artist has always, as a hip hop artist, has always been a great storyteller. And that's what separates, the greatest MCs from the least, in my opinion. Like, you can look back to old school NWA, okay, like MC Ren and Ice Cube wrote all NWA shit, but Easy had the voice that made you listen. Danny Brown is both, if that makes any sense. And Danny Brown has this voice, back to some early Death Grip shit that I was talking about, that might be a hard pill to swallow. Similar to a high-pitched, nasally voice of a Be Real from Cypress Hill. Okay, Be Real is on this album as a matter of fact. But what Danny Brown has done with this album is he's using that high-pitched, nasally flow as one persona compared to you and I talking on this podcast, and his regular flow is another. And what he's doing with this is his high-pitched shit, which is Danny Brown, who has like some really commercially successful things with that's Danny Brown rapping. That's him. You could hear it. To like, he's playing that character. This is like a comic book thing here. He's playing the character that I, as a Danny Brown fan, I want to hear. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And then when he goes into his regular voice on this album, that's him coming from the heart, but like a storytelling vibe. So it has this very, very cool yin and yang approach. And going back to Danny, first of all, he's from Detroit. He's around our age, early 30s. Triple X was the first album I ever heard by Danny. It made a huge impact on me. Like, I heard of Danny Brown when I first heard of Kendrick Lamar or Schoolboy Q or Earl Sweatshirt, like some really renowned, like badass MCs right now that's going on, like right there. And Triple X was good, but Triple X was like, his first mixtape album was suicidal. Like, he's bringing you into his life, like that's what really good music does for me personally. Like, they're bringing you into their darkest of secrets. Like I mentioned earlier, when you go to confession, if you're a Catholic or whatever it is, you're Orthodox, like the darkest shit you want to tell your priest or your father or whatever you want to call it, like that is this album by Danny Brown. Like, but he's going from a high and a low, lyrically. Now, instrumentally, like the instrumental parts of this shit, like sounds like something from Sanford and Son. And what is crazy about it, all the beats are off time, and it's on Reflex Records, and Reflex Records is an electronic record label that fucks around with like Aphex Twin and like really, really crazy electronic music. So none of this whole album has like a whole seasick drunk vibe, Like I said, Death Grips was, I want to work out, I'm kind of angry. Radiohead has, I'm reflecting, I'm meditating, I'm chilling, I'm going to bed. This album has, I'm partying and I'm a cool dude. Then I'm diving down.
Shit's going to get dark at the end of the night.
And it's going to get dark at the end of the night because I can't sleep anymore. And there's a lot of references on this album to like misogyny, drug usage, drinking, like it's there. And I think Danny's putting it out there because that's what the fans keep asking him about. And I saw this in an interview, like you asked about the title, and he picked that out because that's how he was feeling, like closer Ian Curtis, Joy Division vibe. Like, I'm going to give you what you want as the fan. Like there's no other rapper that could rap on these beats like Danny Brown. No one. No, there's nothing. Nobody else can. Like, this guy is just like the most pure form of an artist or a rapper that's come out in a long time. Like a ODB in 1992. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's the new old dirty bastard, but he can flow way better, and he's way more sharp and witty, and he spits like a dart. Like, this dude, you really want to start to just like break down lyrics and shit. Like, Danny Brown is an artist you really need to check out. Everybody wants to go to, like, here's something I have to say. When I think about Danny Brown, deep down Danny Brown, everyone in this area wants to talk about Chance the Rapper. Okay? Chance the Rapper, in my opinion, all this is subjective, he's good for what he does. Okay? If you want R&B mixed with your hip hop, that's for you or the other guy. I like the fact that he's a White Sox fan. I like the fact that he gives back to where he comes from. I like the fact that he's sold so many albums on an independent level. But when I'm talking about an MC and a character, I want a Danny Brown. I don't want the cute kid with the nice smile that wears his hat kind of crooked and his jeans kind of tight to take your daughter out on a date for prom. Danny Brown is the absolute extreme opposite, but he's honest. Everything about him is honest. This album is crazy. Like, this album is really disconnected. The beats are weird. His rhymes are very personal, but I want to hear that on an album. And maybe in 2016, for me personally, maybe that was something I was going through. I don't know. Like, I'm still, like, this album is so good on an artistic level. I still can put it on and, like, pick something out different. You know, like, I don't own this on vinyl, like I said, like I do like Radiohead, but this shit is a very, very hard pill to, like, digest. Like, it's hard, you know? So when everybody wants their bubblegum rapper that can sing, you know,
about beach balls and summertime and ice cream.
This isn't there. You know, and Bible verses and give back to the community. Very cool. I'm all for that. Chance the Rapper is the shit. He had a good album, I guess, last year. But when you want to come and step up as an MC, like as a rapper, you know, in my opinion, Danny Brown owns you. And he has a song on here, like, it's probably my favorite hip-hop song of the year last year. Like, it's called Really Though. Like, Really Though? Really Though? And it has Kendrick on it, okay? And then it has Ab Soul, who is one of Kendrick's dudes, you know, on Top Dog Entertainment. And then it has Earl Sweatshirt. And Danny Brown starts off. Then it goes to Ab Soul. Then it goes to Kendrick. Then Earl Sweatshirt. But this is when someone says, oh, hip-hop's nothing anymore. Like, it's all mumble rap. And there is a lot of garbage out there. Listen to this track. This was the best hip-hop track of the year last year. It doesn't get any better. And then Danny Brown sets it off with his nasally, like I said, his sound like a B-reel from Cypress Hill. He comes at it. He sets the bar this high, and then everybody else is this high. Like, he's a really, really, really good MC, and he's a really cool character. Like, he seems like the type of dude that could come into the green door and just sit with us and be cool. You know, like, I get that vibe from him. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he could put so much on record about his own personal problems, you know, like with drugs and women and whatever you and I want to hear as a fan, like, that's art. This album is just, it's intense, man. Like, we'll go back to Death Grips real quick. That's like methamphetamine on a lot of vodka. You know, Radiohead Xanax on extra amount of sleep and I don't know, some other kind of downer. And this is just like cocaine, Molly, like highs and lows, you know, like it's just all over the place. And this guy is really
super honest, though.
Super honest, man. I love honest music. Like,
do you remember when we had Kyle Norris on the show and you guys talked about one of the appeals of hip hop for both of you guys? And it was the lyrics, it was the artistry, it was about the construction of the lyrics. But both of you agreed, and he said it. That's what it reminded me when you were kind of talking about it right now, was the appeal of hip hop is that there's like a voyeurism to it. There's also like that MC gets to talk about things that are personal. So you are almost inside of his brain. You're inside of his head and he lets you in there. It sounds to me like Danny Brown does that in such an honest way that you can't help.
He does it, yeah.
But become a fan of it. You can't help but enjoy it and go, holy shit. This is some raw stuff. How does he have the balls to share this in any way? And
exactly.
And he makes it sound good.
I don't know. Like, if you like comic books, if you could look into multiple personalities of a person, if you're a hip hop fan, if you like crazy instrumentals, like this is it. Like, it's a very, very good album. Like, but there's a lot, you know, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of highs and lows. Like, he has a song on here where He's done so much cocaine, like he's rapping to a heartbeat, pacing down and then dying. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is, like, that's crazy, man. Like, and that's what you want as the listener.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I want that Danny, like, I don't know if that's really him, but going back to the album and the title of the album and knowing a little bit or a lot about Joy Division and what the fuck was going on with Ian Curtis at that time. It's like, is this dude suicidal? Like, I don't know, The album before that's called Old. Like, he's one of those artists, too. Everything he's done has been quality, but I'm waiting to see what he does next. Like, in reference back to Radiohead, they had a couple of lames, and so did Death Grips. But Danny Brown, it's like, how could he get any better than this? Like, he has his own lane of making like cool YouTube club hits and then like being an actual artist. And that's the coolest thing about hip hop. It's that one genre where you can tell a story and really bring someone in, and he does it the best. Like, he's that guy, like, I love Kendrick. There are some really good MCs, but Danny Brown is just like this colorful character of fluorescent pink and orange. Like, you can't, like, when he goes into that nasally pitch, like, good luck, like, getting better than that. Like, God damn, he's a good rapper.
Yeah.
So you checked it out, like you said, like you tried?
I started, but I feel it's unfair to give an opinion because hip hop, you really do. So I feel like with other genres, you could at least get on board with like one of the instruments or the lead singer's voice or something, Hip hop's different. You got to listen. You gotta sit down and listen.
And the musical, like I said, the instrumentals on this, like, there is not a rapper out today that is alive that could pull this off. That's why it's that important to me. There's no one else. I don't give a shit who your favorite rapper is. It's not happening. Only Danny Brown could do this and push himself to that level. And these 3 albums is just what blows away your top 3 of 2017. I don't give a shit what you say.
Give me the 3 albums one more time. Just rattle them off real quick, and then tell me about the Morrissey concert.
Death Grips, Bottomless Pit. What? Radiohead, Moonshaped Pool. You say that. Danny Brown.
Atrocity Exhibition.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Morrissey concert.
The Morrissey concert,
Was that the Aragon or somewhere else? No, it wasn't.
It was at the Riviera.
That's right.
Here's what Morrissey's the best at, in my opinion, especially with album covers and getting into a little bit of the Death Grip shit, to package something and make it look presentable, like the old Smiths, like, album covers. Like, there's just like this bleakness that says Manchester, England. Like, I can relate to Manchester, England because of the album covers of the Smiths. Like, you and I can relate to Gary, Indiana. It's like almost taking a picture of the steel mills and shit, and then whatever the hell our band's name is, and then just putting it there, like, with an, like a very off contrast color. And that's what he does well live with his backdrop. Like, everything about Morrissey is very artistic, and that's what he does. Like, he's really cool. Like, the first song he came out to, he had this random weird picture of Elvis that I've never, like, come across. Like, I don't know. It had some military vibe. It wasn't the one that we're all used to, but had this really early, like, I don't know if this is a Navy picture, but it was cool, And then from there, like, he'll go into a James Dean thing, or like every song, like, he's a really good performer of bringing a photographic image behind him while he sings, and that's the whole thing. But then again, it's annoying because when you're waiting for him to fucking come out and perform, he does all this weird shit for like 45 minutes, like, but it's what it means to him. And Morrissey is all about himself. So he had like the New York Dolls, he had the Ramones, like he had Lou Reed, like all this really weird, cool imagery. And he did this last year at Riot Fest. So I knew it was going to happen before he came out, and I knew it was going to happen when he came out. And it was cool, man. Like, as a front man, as as Morrissey, like, he sounded great. You know, he came out, like I said, in Germany, there was an interview where he said something against Kevin Spacey in that whole situation. And I didn't know that before the show, but he came out and said, hey, I'm never doing an interview again. If you didn't see it come out of my mouth, then I didn't say it. So it's like, okay, cool, Morrissey. Like, and here's, like, I'm a fan, but with Morrissey, like, he's not the type to, like, shy away. Like, if he's going to say something, he's going to say it. So I don't know what the fuck was going on in Germany, you know, or whatever he said about Kevin Spacey and all these things that are going on now with
I don't know either.
Sexual allegations. But, you know, he's a controversial dude, so he's going to come out and defend his word. So, you know, besides all the politics and the art behind what he had to do and say, he was great, man. He did 3 Smiths tracks, which was really cool. I was really happy just to be a part of it. It's cool because, like, a lot of the shit I talk about is kind of aggressive and maybe a little bit dark, you know, hip hop wise or rock and roll wise. And it was nice to go to a show where it was a little bit more subtle, you know, a little bit more chill, a little bit more mature. So Morrissey was great, and the Riviera is great. Like, you know, with a good show, it all comes down to lighting, security, number one. Like, no one was a dick. I didn't see any problems anywhere. I just saw nothing but love. You know, like, it was a great time. And he did a lot of newer stuff, and that album came out like a week ago, and I like it. And I may or may not talk about it, but, you know, it's not groundbreaking by any means. It's just maybe a little bit more Morrissey by the numbers, and he's coming along, but it's not bad. You know, I mean, XRT was the one that promoted it and that hosted it, and it was a great time.
Cool.
Really good time.
Last question for you. And then you can go home if you want.
I don't know, I'll hang out.
Any upcoming concerts?
Well, upcoming wise, as far as the show goes, there's a couple artists locally that I want to bring on and that will be brought on. Jason Summerhill, he'll be here. He's in a band called Anchors. He's a drummer, and then he has his own solo stuff. And there's another artist, I'm not going to drop the name, but we're going to bring him on as well. I'd like to do some live recordings if we can.
Yeah.
Especially with Jason. The other 2 artists, it will be more of an interview format, and we'll go from there. But live-wise, I know that Run the Jewels, they're coming in December, but tickets were pretty high. As far as singles that came out, too, I know I do the single thing. Glassjaw came out with something. It's all right. I'm a little butthurt with Glassjaw, like I was with Death Grips, so I don't really want to get into that too much. But the track isn't bad. And then that's really about it, man. I mean, we'll see what happens here locally. The comedy show was great. Kyle Norris was awesome, and so was Brian Babylon. I really had a good time at that, and I really feel that, well, actually, I know, I don't feel it. Hobart's doing great things. Come check it out. You know, every town has its own niche. Hobart has always been a great town. I'm from here. I love it. But I feel like it's progressing in a really, really good way. You know, it's nice to have this opportunity, like I said earlier, to just state my opinion. But not only that, you know, there's a place next door where a band could play or a comedian, and then you could be served food and then alcohol. There's a lot going on in Hobart right now, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm in a position where, you know, maybe build a new house or find a new house. Am I going to stay or not? I really like it, you know, like, Hobart's a great town, so come check it out. Stratton, thanks for the opportunity. It was a good night. Next recording will be great.
All right, dude.
Later.
I'm musically meditated.
That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated. That's right.